My fall from grace, if you will, started in 2010, where 2009, I had worked almost, 9.5 years in a position that I had mastered. And I needed to move on or be promoted. I got neither. No opportunities to grow, no opportunities to learn, no opportunities to advance. And 2 to 3% raises per year. 3%. Well, that's every job I've ever had, except one. I one time got a 15% raise because they hired me at $52,000 a year, if they even that. And they knew they grossly underpaid me. But I was working for Sage, and it started out as a project. After I left Tactics, I was working for Sage. It originally was WebMD, and then changed to MDon, and then changed to, I don't know how many times it changed names, HLTH. Then they sold me, my boss, who was in New Jersey, and I was in Tampa working for it wasn't WebMD, it was a medical manager who WebMD had bought. And I don't know, who knows all the intricacies behind the scenes, but they weren't called WebMD. They were always called medical manager. They sold the software to hospitals and doctors' offices and blah, 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 blah. We were on a project. I was hired as an independent consultant. And then I went full-time with WebMD, and then became MDon. And then eventually they sold the division off to Sage Software. And I transferred with Sage because I was doing SoftTrax support with Oracle applications. And after 9.5 years, almost 10 years, maybe more than 9.5 years, I was extremely unhappy, and I took a short-term disability at a recommendation of my boss, and I knew things were not going well. I knew when I went back against my own better judgment. I left on short-term again. I was entirely, did 3 months between the two. And then I went back. My psychiatrist said, well, you might as well go back. They're just going to fire you anyway. So instead of letting me stay out on long-term disability like I asked him to, he forced me to go back to work and be fired. He knew I was going to be fired. I knew I was going to be fired for being out on short-term disability. It wasn't that I didn't have a reason for being out on short-term disability. And I knew I wasn't ready to go back. My therapist told him point blank, he's not ready. My psychiatrist, wonderful person that he was, Mr. Szabo or Dr. Szabo, I guess he was a Dr. Szabo. The only reason I ever even went to him, the only reason I went to a psychiatrist was for antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. My therapy was through a therapist. No psychiatrist ever helped me. They just prescribed medication, and that's all they did. They only evaluated me for antidepressants. They didn't solve my problems. And I don't know what Dr. Szabo thinks he was. I hope he's, personally speaking, he better not still be practicing. He should be considerably older and possibly dead by now. Sent me back to work, where I told him, I know I'm going to be fired. And I told him that when I go back, they're going to fire me. And then he had the audacity to repeat to me, well, you know, when you go back, they're just going to fire you anyway. You might as well just go back and get it over with. So instead of letting me stay out on short-term disability or long-term disability with insurance, because it was covered by insurance, he made me go back and get fired. And then what did I have? I had to move out of my house. I had to give it up for foreclosure. If I'd been on long-term disability, I would have collected 70% of my salary. And I was making about $85,000 a year salary with bonuses, $100,000 a year. And I would have kept 70% of that $85,000 a year if I'd have been out on long-term disability. But he made me go back to work. Because I was lazy, I guess. And that's the term for today. The term for today is lazy. Because so many people think that there are so many people in this world who are lazy, who just don't want to work. Yeah, that's me. I just don't want to work. I'm lazy. That's what everybody's always called me. Not always, but for as long as I can remember. Lazy. How did all these pieces of furniture get put together if I was lazy? My mom was reading something online about lazy people, about good people who can't get by, and lazy people complaining about them. Or no, it's not that lazy people were complaining about them. They were complaining because they couldn't get by, and lazy people didn't want to work. Am I lazy? I know I'm not. I fought tooth and nail through depression for 30 years to have a job and a career. I spent 9 months working in Canada, living in a hotel, because I was lazy. No, because I was good at what I did. I made a lot of money, and it's all gone. My house was foreclosed on, the one I moved out of, because I couldn't afford the payment anymore. Well, I lost my job. I didn't have another job for 2 years. That was WellCare when I finally got hired again at WellCare 2 years later, after filing bankruptcy, giving up my house, moving in with my parents, and fighting with my dad. But I'm lazy. I'm just lazy. That's why they arrested me and gave me a felony, third-degree felony record. My dad did. By having me arrested. They said I attacked him, and he was 65 years of age or older. I served 8 months in jail, 7 months in jail. And I didn't do anything to him. I laid in bed, and he didn't like it. I was depressed. I'm still depressed, but I'm medicated now with something that actually works. I take 3 of them, the maximum dosage. Something I've never done. Nobody's ever prescribed me that much antidepressants. But the hospital did. This last one I was in. It was a Baycare. I will give you that. It was a Baycare. Baycare has been a godsend to me. But I lost that job at Sage that I had for almost 9 years. I had an office. They had to remove me from my office and put me in a cubicle again. I had an office for I don't know how many years. And Sage took my office away and put me in a cubicle where I couldn't even turn around. And I was supposed to be happy. My boss moved down. He left WebMD or whatever company they work for. Moved down from New Jersey, decided he was going to come down, live in Florida with his dad. His dad lived in Florida, so he wanted to live in Florida. So instead of promoting me to be manager, He moved down to be manager, and I just continued in the same old job that I had for 9 years. Who wouldn't be depressed? And I've been suffering with depression my whole life. When I was first diagnosed at the age of 25, I was told, you've been suffering from depression pretty much your whole life. Well, I had a weight problem, and that was a sign of depression. Well, the way people treat me is no wonder. I look at my teeth. No wonder I'm depressed. Still, things just keep getting worse. Well, they're getting better now. Really? I don't know that they've gotten any better at all. We lost our house. My mother lost her house, which means I lost my house, because that's the only place I had to live. I've been disabled and lost my benefits 3 years after going on disability. They took my benefits away because I missed an appointment. They never said that I was not disabled, that I could work. They said, you missed your appointment, so we're not going to pay you anymore. Your disability that I worked for, 30, 40 years to earn, wiped the slate clean. They never said I wasn't disabled. They just stopped giving me disability benefits. And here I am. How many years later? My dad is dead. My mom is here. She's 80 years old. We're living in an apartment. And when she dies, do I get any inheritance? No. Do I get a place to live? No. The word for today is lazy. And buddy, let me tell you something. I am anything but lazy.